Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Jeff Mack from Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, and David Birdwell, Topstack. Jeffrey, can you please give us a rundown on who we have on the show today, please?
Sure, Herb. We have a great show planned. We have John Coleman, President and CEO of Tioga Franklin Savings Bank, David Haas, co-founder of a company called POWERPay. Peter Hecht is founding partner and executive vice president of sales of Magna Legal Services, and Zach Derstine is the president of Derstines and EZ3PL.
Excellent. Let's get to know our first guest, John Coleman, president and CEO, Tioga Franklin Savings Bank. John, what is Tioga Franklin Savings Bank?
Herb, it's a 147-year-old community bank located in Philadelphia, single branch. Well, over the biggest accomplishment we had recently was we were number one in the state in doing PPP loans as a percentage of total assets.
Interesting. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from the southwest area of Philadelphia. I'm one of three. I'm right in the middle. I have two sisters.
Southwest Philadelphia is row houses, if I remember correctly?
It certainly is, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood. And what was going on 8 to 14? What was the primary stuff you were doing 8 to 14? 8
to 14, spent most of my day out front in the street, socializing with my friends and kids, playing a lot of sports.
All righty. Jeffrey?
So, John, what are mom and dad doing as you were growing up? What did they do for a living?
My dad was a machinist. He worked odd hours, usually a late night shift. My mother, for the most part, was a stay-at-home mom, but eventually went to work in a department store.
John, which one are you more like, mom or dad?
I'm definitely like my dad, yes.
And tell us about that trait. What did your dad teach you that you're using in your business running a bank today?
My dad is very sociable. He liked meeting people, helping people. He was always doing something in that line.
What's that have to do with your being associated the president and CEO of Tioga Franklin Savings Bank, the fact that your father was a friendly kind of machinist?
Well, as a small community bank, we have a lot of personal touch. We're involved in our community. We care about our community.
Drew?
John, you mentioned playing sports. What sports were you playing?
I played them all, but mostly it was basketball, football, and baseball.
And what would your teammates tell us about you?
I'm aggressive, always want to win, so never give up.
And what do you bring to work every day from those days on the basketball court?
I still bring the same attitude that you can do anything as long as you work hard at it.
And you mentioned that your dad used to listen to your dad and your uncles talk about kind of old times. What do you remember from those conversations?
Well, this is shortly after World War II, obviously, and showing my age, but my dad and his two brothers were vets, like the whole neighborhood. They were all vets. And it was interesting to hear them talk about their time in the service and overseas.
And when you say interesting, what was the impact of those conversations on you?
Well, the takeaway I had for years was that it was amazing what these common people did in such an uncommon situation.
And how does that influence the culture of the bank?
Well, I guess the same way we are not a common bank. We were just a small community bank that we transformed ourselves into a bank that can do a lot more for our community and our customers.
David?
John, you were telling us in the green room about your first couple of jobs and when you first started making money. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well, my first job, like most people in the city, I was a paper boy, and we made some money that way. But a lot of time I made some extra money, but that wasn't my intention. It was to go out shoveling snow, cutting grass, doing things like that for our neighbors.
So you weren't always getting paid for the shoveling?
No, if I had asked for money, my father probably would have.
So why do it?
Because it's just what you did. You had elderly neighbors; they couldn't do it themselves.
Got it. And
what's that fact that your father would have been pretty upset if you had asked for the money, but nonetheless you went ahead and did it? And oh, by the way, sometimes you got paid. What's that have to do with your being the president and CEO of Tioga Franklin Savings Bank?
Well, you don't go in it for the money. That's obviously, if you're in banking for the money, you take a lot different path than being in a small community bank.
So why are you doing the small community bank then if you're not making a lot of money?
It's because it's the whole concept of being able to direct the energies of the bank into doing something for the community.
What are you talking about?
Well, when I was in core states, I had no impact on the community. I was one of 8,000 people. Sure. It's a little different here.
Why?
Well, you get to call the shots. You get to deal with a board and management team that's part of the community, and they all share the same vision.
How do you give back to the community as opposed to sucking the blood out of it?
Well, I guess the best example is in the last 2 years or so, with all the downturn and things happening, we've instituted a program where people who are on the verge of possibly losing their houses, but they have the opportunity to get back on their feet. We have provided financing, distress financing, to help them out, and we've done five of them over the last year.
Wait a minute. I thought the bank's job was to lend money, and if somebody didn't pay, you foreclose on them, and you take their house. What are you talking about?
Well, these are people who didn't want to lose their house. We saw it as an acceptable risk. And as they turned themselves around, we picked up a customer.
Wow. Talk about investing into the community. Drew, what else you thinking?
Yeah, John, I just want to take us back to the streets there, like going out with the kids. What do you remember from those times? Like, what was your role with your friend group?
Well, for the most part, I was one of the younger players in all this, because I grew up with 6 of my cousins living in the same neighborhood, and they were all older than me. So I followed them along as much as possible. So if I wanted to play ball with them, I had to play ball with kids that were a couple of years older than me.
And didn't you mention that you're still playing baseball today?
I still am. My cousins aren't, but I am. I've been playing baseball for the last 15 years.
And why is that meaningful to you to still play baseball?
Well, one, I want to make sure I can still enjoy myself out there. And I was horrible at golf. So let's get back to baseball. The ball's bigger. It's easier to hit.
You enjoy that time on the team too?
I do. It's a lot of fun. And most of the people that are playing in the league that I've been playing with for 15 years have turned into customers and friends and business associates. So it's a great group.
And was your dad tied in the community when you were growing up?
He was for a while. He was a committeeman for years, and then 20 years later, I came back to that neighborhood, and I became that same committeeman.
What was the impact of seeing your dad, kind of be out there amongst the community and with the people? What did that mean to you as a kid?
Well, it just felt natural. That's what you did. These people that came back from the war, these vets, they either sheltered themselves away from everybody, or they were out there in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And John, you had a pretty active childhood, but you mentioned to us earlier that you have 4 kids of your own, 3 daughters and a son.
Yes, I do. Blended.
What have you learned? What have you learned from your children?
I learned that there's other things in life than just work. They seem to enjoy themselves. They've all done well. One, I won't call him stepson, but that's what he is. He's a major in the Air Force and a pilot.
Mm-hmm. So you're all about the community. You're all about the people. In fact, when we asked you earlier, one of the reasons you like playing sports is because of the team. So you're all about the community. You're all about the team. Is that why community banking's in your blood?
It is. It is. I've spent 20 years in the beginning of my career working for the larger banks, the regional banks. And when I had an opportunity to get into community banking, I took it and never looked back.
Mm-hmm. And it's because?
It's because it's the real banking. Maybe one of my favorite movies was It Was a Wonderful Life. Now, I don't think I'm Jim Stewart, but it's the whole concept of banking really comes from that.
being in the neighborhood, being in the community, being able to make an impact, knowing that you're able to make an impact, like you were able to save those people's homes from a foreclosure with the bank.
Right. And able to see 400 and some businesses, small businesses, stay open.
Perfect. What's the website address of this organization?
TiogaFranklin.com.
TiogaFranklin.com. We've been speaking with John Coleman, President and CEO of Tioga Franklin Savings Bank, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com. Simply visit ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce David Haas, co-founder of POWERPay. David, what is POWERPay? What are you guys doing?
POWERPay is a national home improvement lender. We launched in 2020, and this year we'll generate about a $1.5 billion in home improvement loans.
Wow. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia, a place called Havertown, the youngest of four.
Youngest of four. And what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old? What was the primary stuff that was going on 8 to 14?
I was a regular kid in a regular suburb. I did lose my father at age 11, so I struggled for the most of those years.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
David, what was your first job when you started making money? What did you do first?
As I mentioned earlier, when my dad passed, my first thought was, how am I going to survive and how are we going to make money? And I went out and got a job as a busboy.
And you were doing bussing tables and working with people.
What did you do different than all the other busboys, David?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
What did you do different than all the other busboys?
I outworked them mostly. I learned pretty quickly that the harder I worked, helping the waiters and waitresses, move the tables, the more money I could make in tips. So I got compensated.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
And what'd you do from there? What was the next job that you had, David?
Well, I pretty much worked those kind of jobs until high school. And then after high school, I obviously went to college, and in college I worked as well, but I was doing really entrepreneurial type things then.
But when you think back about bussing tables, and you're now managing 180 people now and growing, what do you remember from bussing tables that you kind of have in the back of your mind?
Well, it's an important skill. I think that I would wish all my employees worked at a restaurant at some point, because it's the ultimate in customer service. You learn how to deal with people on the phone, angry customers. You know how to diffuse situations. It's actually a pretty good place to learn. Because we deal with situations with consumers and contractors all day long, and it's a pretty important skill.
Drew?
If you mentioned you played football and were also on the wrestling team, what do you remember about that experience?
Well, the most important thing that I remember is that I pretty much hated losing more than I liked winning, and it did drive me everything I did going forward.
What's the impact of hating losing on your business today?
Well, the good thing is, I think over time, and it's been a long time, that I've been able to flip the switch from hating losing to liking winning. I actually enjoy winning now more than I do. I don't like to lose, obviously, but winning is something that helps a lot more than just me.
And you said wrestling, you're pretty good at wrestling. What do you remember about wrestling? It's a tough sport. Like, what do you remember most about those practices and your teammates?
The practices were that, they were grinding. It was fun, but the matches were the part that really, got my energy going. I mean, I was just a ball of aggression, and it was exciting. Mm-hmm. One-on-one sport. If you haven't done it before, you learn how to, take care of yourself.
You mentioned also that you weren't the greatest student when you were in school until you got your footing. What are you talking about until you got your footing? What do you mean?
Again, those years of high school, early high school were pretty troublesome for me. I guess I was a little bit lost. School was not the most important thing to me. I went to a new school where much smaller, where, you were being watched. And and then I realized that I had to do better in order to stay there. And then as I got older, I knew I had to get into college. So I realized that school maybe was a little more important than I thought it was. And I really had to buckle down. Mm-hmm. And thankfully that worked out okay.
Mm-hmm. David?
David, you told us that the business has scaled exponentially through this past year. How do you keep culture and the culture of your organization close to the chest during that time?
Well, as I told you, we grew from, I think in December of 2019, we were 10 people. We're about 180 today. And the thing that I think I've learned, and obviously it's an iterative process. I'm not sure we have it 100% yet, but culture you can't really create. You have to either have it or you don't. I don't think you can force it. We've created an environment of openness. It was during the pandemic. We encouraged people to come in that wanted to come in. Most of our employees are 23, 24, maybe their first job out of college. And, it was almost like a mental escape to come to the office. We have video games, we have hoverboards, we've got electric bikes, we've got shuffleboard and pool, and we have dart boards, and we've fully stocked the refrigerators, and there's food here, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We even have some beer here occasionally, great coffee, and we try to create an environment where people want to come in and spend time with us. And
David,
it's been a lot of fun.
What did you get from your childhood that made you so sensitive to having fun and creating the culture? Where'd that come from?
I think I'm Herb, I'm not sure I have a great answer to that, but I feel like, my world has sort of shifted from where I was to where I am. This is not like a progression. It just things sort of shifted over, which is, I wasn't like that as a kid. I wasn't team oriented. I was, I just wanted to win or survive. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I'm looking at things a little bit differently, where, we can't survive. We don't succeed because of what Mike, my partner, and I do. We succeed what our team does, and each of our, our groups. And there's, 5 different teams here, all doing things that are a little bit different, that all affect each other. And so we've got to work together to be successful.
Jeffrey?
So, David, you mentioned your partner, Mike Petrakis. What's important in a good partner? What does a good partner do for you, and what do you guys do for each other? Well,
I think having a smarter partner than you, a guy that works harder than you, even though I work really hard, a guy that has really good vision, someone that can not only see the big picture, but understand the details that are required to. We're basically a bank, so it's a complicated business. There's a lot going on. It's auditing and underwriting and all kinds of things that we need to deal with. He happens to be able to do those things, so he's probably a much better partner than I am.
And what do you do differently, the two of you?
Our approach to things is a little bit different, but they're very in sync in what our vision is. We have, very big goals for our company. When people talk to us about how remarkable the growth is going from 0 to 1.5 billion or from 0 to 108 people, it doesn't feel that remarkable to me. Mm-hmm. And I can see from the outside that they might think that, but the truth is, we have a plan, we have a good model, we have a scalable platform, we're investing in all the right things and the right people.
David,
we're building great
if we
teams.
knew you better, what are we missing about this interview if we knew you better? If we were doing a better job, if we really knew you well, what are we missing?
I don't know, Herb. I'm not sure if I have a great answer for that. I think that I'm a complicated person, but at the same time, I care a lot about the people around me. We have it's a small family. I mean, it's 180 people now. A lot of our team is actually remote. That's the one it's a little bit of a bummer, but we care a lot about what we're doing here. And I'm not sure people really see that all the time.
David, you mentioned
you and your wife Lisa have two boys. David, what have you learned from your two sons?
Patience for sure. I have one son that's a lot like me, but a lot nicer and a lot smarter. And I have another son who's a lot like my wife, who's was really easy to manage growing up. But they all played sports, and it was and they did really well in school. They had a different life than I had. But I learned a lot about just letting people make mistakes, like my team, learning as fast as possible. We throw them into these situations and let them handle everything. And some are doing really, really well, and some are slower, but they're. I feel like this is the best job they're ever going to have.
Mm-hmm. David, what's the website address of this organization known as POWERPay?
GetPowerPay.com.
Let me have that one more time.
GetPowerPay.com.
We've been speaking with David Haas, co-founder of an organization known as POWERPay here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Stick around. Don't go away. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Peter Hecht, founding partner and executive vice president of sales, Magna Legal Services. Peter, what is Magna Legal Services? What are you guys doing?
Magna Legal Services is a litigation consulting and support company. We're headquartered in Philadelphia. We service the entire country. And the idea is to provide services from discovery to trial to lawyers, a garden variety of lawyers, governmental agencies, insurance companies, and Fortune 100 and 500 companies.
All righty. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
All right. Born in Brooklyn, raised in New Jersey off of Exit 9, one of three, and I'm the oldest. I have two sisters.
You're the oldest of three. All right. 8 to 14 years old. What were you doing?
Nothing great. No sports. Mostly hanging out with the guys on the block, looking to do things out in the woods and, pedaling along on our bikes and, doing little adventures.
How many kids in the neighborhood were you hanging out with?
There was a core group of about a half dozen of us.
Mm-hmm. Were you the oldest, the youngest? Where'd you fit into the group?
We were all generally the same age, so the same.
So you mentioned earlier when I was getting to know you in the green room that you felt a real sense of camaraderie with these six buddies. What's this desire for camaraderie have to do with your building this organization known as Magna Legal Services? The camaraderie of my childhood really translates well to the office place, because it's I think of like when I come to work, it's like coming to a playground. Back when I was a kid. I've got my coworkers and my partners, and I really view them in the same way as friends and partners. And we have a lot of fun together. Okie dokie, Jeffrey.
Peter, tell us about mom and dad. What do they do for a living when you were growing up as a kid?
My dad's a tax attorney, and my mom was a physical therapist, and then she decided to stay home and take care of the three of me and my two sisters.
Are you more like mom or dad, Peter?
I'm a hybrid. My mom is super creative. She's also an artist, and I'm a little bit of I got that go-go attitude from my dad. He's always focused on the job, or was. And
did you follow your dad in his practice? Did that lead you to be into the legal world as a profession?
No, actually, it was my wife. My wife is a court reporter.
Oh, is that right? How did that happen? How did she influence you going into this business?
I was working for AT&T and MCI at the time, and the telecom bubble had just bursted at that time, right around Y2K, and she was telling me about an opportunity at one of the companies that she was freelancing for, and I chased it down.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
Peter, you mentioned in the green room when I asked who inspired you that it was really your dad. What do you mean by that? Like, why did Dad inspire you so much?
He was just he was a guy that started from the bottom and worked his way to the top, and he was dedicated to the job. He was dedicated to the family too, but he was focused on the job, and he served as a great role model for me.
And when you're faced with a tough decision at the office, what do you hear your dad whispering in your ear?
I actually think, what would my dad do? Actually, that's what I think about sometimes when I'm in those tough situations. Usually it comes down to doing the right thing.
And I just had another question about hanging out with your buddies. Like, what would your buddies tell us about you that you were hanging out with back then?
I was an instigator. So I was kind of creating some of those, crazy things that we were doing out there, whether it was playing bottle ball or, setting up ramps and, for our bikes to do big jumps and stuff like that.
And was loyalty important amongst that group?
Yeah. I mean, summertime, we woke up in the morning, spent the entire day until our parents called us home, after dark. We were shooting each other.
Do you bring that loyalty to the office and to your clients every day?
I think so, yeah. And our clients are number one.
Mm-hmm. David?
So can you elaborate for me a little bit on what you were like as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I was certainly, a pain in the butt. I wasn't exactly, the greatest student. My folks had to pay a lot of attention to me to kind of get me focused on school and whatnot. But I was.
So it sounds like you have a lot of excess creative energy.
Oh yeah, most definitely, a ton of energy.
So how does that show itself today in Magna?
ABO, always be on. And that's really the culture at Magna Legal Services, that sense of urgency, it's go, go, go. And everybody, the people, my partners are like that. The folks that we hire, we look for those kinds of qualities where they just, that always be on attitude.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of sports do you do nowadays, or what do you do in your leisure time?
Selling is my sport. That's what I like. I like to win in the sales space.
Well, what do you? I mean, you're telling me that business is everything to you?
It's my hobby. I don't have anything else. My family and Magna.
Your family and Magna, and you keep filled by that, and selling is your sport.
Absolutely, it's competitive, and I like to win. I don't like to lose.
Mm-hmm. How many? So at home, you have any kids?
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
How old are they?
I have a 20-year-old boy, a 17-year-old girl, and a 14-year-old boy.
Similarity between being a dad and being a CEO or a co-founder of a business.
ABO, always be on.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
What's that?
What do you mean?
They keep me on my toes. I mean, you have to be constantly on with them. My kids are pretty active. They're all like me. They've got all that crazy energy. I'm fortunate in the fact that they're 2 out of the 3 are pretty big athletes, so they're able to channel that energy in a positive direction. So it's fun to watch and be part of that.
And at home, how do you split up responsibilities? Who runs the house?
Oh, but my wife is the CEO, the CFO. She's most definitely in charge.
So what's the best part of your job?
Working with the clients. I love the hustle. I hate COVID-19. I hate I hate the virtual space, even though there's some benefits to it. But I was a guy that was on an airplane, 2-3 times a week, going across the country. And I love that action. I love being face to face with clients and building relationships and providing solutions and being out there. So I'm really glad that it's coming to an end.
Why do you're the founding partner? Do you have partners in the business now?
Yeah, I have 3 other business partners.
Why do you have partners? Why have partners?
I don't think that we could have achieved the success that we have today, without our partnership. We each bring something different to the table, and we energize each other. And the good thing about partners is partners are like bosses, and it makes you check in and have that reality check before you pull the trigger on something.
So you like having other opinions around you?
Sometimes. When they agree with me, mostly.
I think you tend to like diverse opinions. Something tells me that's competitive spirit in you. Who's got the next question?
Peter, what are you most proud of? What are the things that you've done? What are you most proud of in your life?
Outside of my children, Magna Legal Services is I would say my greatest achievement. With my building it with my partners.
And what lights your fire when you walk in the door and you look around? You have 450 employees. What lights your fire about what you're doing?
The sense of the unknown. What's going to be next. That's I wake up like that before I walk out the door. I've already got the butterflies in my stomach. What's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of an adventure.
So in the world you live in, is there more opportunity yesterday or is there more opportunity tomorrow?
Tomorrow. I mean, we're just serial entrepreneurs. We're constantly thinking about different ways to disrupt our industry. And we listen to our clients, and we get a lot of our new ideas from our clients themselves.
Mm-hmm. So you really enjoy conquering the mountain, taking the mountain with the other guys, with your teammates.
Oh yeah.
It's like business is really a team sport with you, isn't it?
Yeah, that is correct.
That's the camaraderie around, as it was showing up as a kid where, the camaraderie with the other guys in the neighborhood, where it didn't sound like you wanted to dominate everybody. You had a bunch of creative ideas of where to go. My bet is that's probably what you're doing with the team nowadays. You're coming up with new ideas all the time.
Yeah, it's like an idea factory. So for sure, we get together and we hang out and we come up with some new stuff.
What's the website address of this organization?
MagnaLS.com.
Let me have that one more time.
MagnaLS.com.
We've been speaking with Peter Hecht, founding partner and executive vice president of sales, Magna Legal Services. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com. Simply visit ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit ExecutiveLeadersRadio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Zach Derstine, president of Derstines and EZ3PL. Zach, what is Derstines and EZ3PL?
Derstine is a wholesale food service distributor. We buy food from manufacturers and distribute to restaurants. And EZ3PL is a cold storage and logistics provider.
All righty. Where you're from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
Telford, Pennsylvania. I have one sister, and she's 7 years older than I am.
And tell me, what were you doing 8 to 14 years old? What were the primary things you were doing 8 to 14?
Working in the family business and Taekwondo.
Working in the family business and Taekwondo. Okay. Drew, give me a hand with this.
Yeah, Zach, when we're talking the green room, you obviously had a pretty special relationship with your father. Can you tell us a little about him?
Yeah, he started the business when he was 36 years old. He bought a failing business and turned it around and spent every waking hour there, 6 days a week.
What was the impact of watching your dad take a struggling business and turn it around? What was the impact as a youth?
That showed me how important perseverance and hard work were to achieve success.
And when you're at the office today and you're faced with a tough decision, what do you hear your dad telling you?
Never give up, keep pushing forward.
And speaking of never giving up, what was Taekwondo like? What did that mean to you?
In Taekwondo, perseverance was one of the 5 tenets that we had to learn. I ended up getting my black belt when I was 14. So that really was aligned with the things that my family was teaching me also.
What do you bring to work every day that you learned studying Taekwondo?
Discipline, perseverance, work ethic, competitive spirit. When in Taekwondo, you could do 2 things, fight or forms. I did both of them, but fighting was my favorite. And I still like to get a little scrappy here in my own business.
Mm-hmm. Jeffrey?
So Zach, your mom and dad, did this business together, and they took it from a difficult situation to a successful outcome. How did that work? I mean, what did you see them doing together?
They had to give and take. They worked together every day. And it was a tremendous amount of work, and I saw some big challenges. I saw them almost fail at least one time, and I witnessed some arguments and some competitive and heated conversations, but they never gave up.
What was the secret sauce in the success of the business that they invested in?
Service. Any business has service, quality, and price, and we've always focused on service.
And what did your mom and dad do differently in creating and running this business?
Taking care of the customers, whatever the customers or the employees needed, they tried to be at their beck and call.
But what did mom do differently than dad?
What did mom do differently than dad? She didn't back down. Mm-hmm. We have a matriarchal family, and she, like me, has a very strong will.
Mm-hmm. And Zach, I understand your grandmother had a pretty significant influence on you. What was that all about?
Well, after school, my parents weren't home, so I would take the school bus to my grandmother's house, and my grandfather wasn't home. He was working also. So when I was there, oftentimes we would walk down the road and pick up the trash, stop the highway.
You would pick up the trash on the highway. All right. What's that have to do with building this business?
Service to people, service to our employees and service to our customers. We're trying to make the world a better place, one little piece of trash at a time.
Okay. David?
Zach, I get the feeling that this business that you're involved in is a sport for you. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, it's always been my sport and my hobby.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when I was young, I always wanted to be involved in the family business. So rather than play sports, I was coming to work. I was playing soccer in high school, and I remember I never got to the varsity soccer team because I could not go to practice in the summertime because I had to work night shift. I couldn't stay awake during the daytime to go to soccer practice.
So when you were a kid, what you went to school and you worked?
Yeah, a very unusual childhood. I used to go to work 9 o'clock on Thursday night. I would work all night until 7 a.m. Then I would get a shower and go to school all day.
What? And your parents let you do this, or did they need you to do it?
A little bit of both, but mostly just let me to do it. I never was a good sleeper, so I was happy that I had something to do all night.
So you were working. So how young were you when you were working all night?
I didn't do that until I was 16 because I had to drive myself. But before that, I used to go to work with my dad at 2 o'clock in the morning before school. And then during the summertime, I would work night and day. When the night shift was on vacation, my dad and I would go in and work all night, and then he would work all day.
Doing what kind of stuff? What were you doing?
Picking orders in the warehouse, working in the freezer, loading trucks, driving trucks, delivering food, mowing the yard.
It was hard work, and you liked doing this stuff?
Oh, I loved it. Still do.
Why? What was it about it you liked? It sounds like it's work. Ugh.
When the business started, the competition was very fierce, and I always saw our competitors doing more business than we were, and I knew that if I had the opportunity to beat them, I wanted to win.
So you're all about the team. You're all about mom and dad and loyalty and working together and winning as a team, aren't you?
Yeah, I am all about loyalty and team.
How's that showing up in the business nowadays?
We try to empower our employees so that they can make an impact. One of the most notable things we did recently, the federal government asked my company to ship 1,000 containers of product to Puerto Rico and then deliver each of those containers to food insecure people to every county. And we just finished that contract on May 30th, and we delivered every ounce of food in the contract starting January 19th until May 30. And that took quite a team.
So you love a challenge, and you love pulling a team around the challenge. And boy, you're a pretty fierce teammate, aren't you?
I do love a challenge.
And all right, who's got the next question for Zach?
What would your clients tell us about you and your company?
My clients would tell you that we work very hard and we don't like to be in second place. And we're in a tough position in our industry because most of our peers and competitors are publicly traded companies with 10,000 employees. We have 80 employees, so it's difficult to compete sometimes, but we're always working at doing so, and usually through service.
What's the benefit, of being small and scrappy like that?
Well, we're very nimble, so we can provide the customers what they need, and we can be flexible. It's something that our peer group cannot always do like we can.
What do you think the most important part of the culture of Derstine's that your father built is?
The most important part of our culture would be hard work.
Are mom and dad still involved in the business?
Yeah, they still come in every week.
So who runs the business? Who's got control of it? Who decides what to do and what not to do?
I run the business. I have control of it and make those decisions.
Do they offer you advice?
If I ask for it, sure.
If you ask for it, so they don't tell you what to do anymore?
No. They do not.
So they trust that you know what you're doing?
Yes. But we've been doing this together for over 30 years, so it's worked out.
Yeah, nonetheless, though, it sounds like you have a lot of responsibility on your shoulders that you really enjoy, don't you?
I do. I can't wait to get to work. I come here at 5 a.m. because I like to do it, not because I have to.
How young were you when this responsibility began to show up? Give me an example.
I built a warehouse addition that would have increased our capacity by 400%. It was about $3 million, and I did that when I was 27.
You did what when you were 27?
Oversaw that building project, set it up, got the lending, filled it up, and that was right before the economy crashed. So when the economy crashed in 07, 08, I had to start that new business, Easy 3PL, because we needed to have additional income to pay the mortgage and the insurance, utilities, etc.
Boy, you know how to make things work in tough times, don't you?
Yeah, we had to turn it around again here in March 2020 when the governor closed every restaurant and we lost all 1,000 customers in one day.
Oh my gosh. Boy, you saw your dad go through turnaround. You've been through 2 turnarounds on your own.
That's why I have this hairstyle.
What's the website address for these organizations, Derstine's and Easy 3PL?
Derstines.com and easy3plonline.com.
We've been speaking with Zach Derstine, who's the president of Derstine's and Easy 3PL here on Executive Leaders Radio. Jeffrey, could you do me a favor and give us a rundown on who we've had the opportunity of speaking with on the show today?
Herb, it was a great show. We started with John Coleman, president and CEO of Tioga Franklin Savings Bank, David Haas, co-founder of POWERPay, Peter Hecht, founding partner and executive vice president of sales of Magna Legal Services, and just now Zach Derstine, president of Derstine's and Easy 3PL.
Thank you. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Mr. Jeff Mack, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, and David Birdwell from TopStack for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today and have a nice day. Bye-bye.